Talking to you all, shouting out, but yeah, we could start. Really great to meet you all. Anyone that hasn't got their video on, I love you. Sabina, Sarah, Lucia, Stella, for having your videos on. Tamara, yes, it makes such a massive difference to the experience. So yeah, don't be shy. If you can, put your videos on. If you can't, I understand sometimes you're in work, sometimes you're on your phone. But for those of you who can, mwah, mwah, I love you forever. If you drop your wallets, I will send you presents for Decentraland just for having your video on. So thank you so much. I was saying, I don't know much about your artistic practice. I don't have a list of artists or your portfolio links. If you want to share them in the chat, I really encourage you to do so. So anything you'd like me to look at, anything that you want to share with everybody, please do share them in the chat, and we'll kind of use them as starting points. Christina, lovely to see you on video as well. We're going to be doing a really practical session today. The first half is going to be an introduction to this kind of concept of virtual worlds and environments for artists. And then the second part, we're going to be starting creating something. I don't think we'll finish in this time, but it will give you a taste of what's possible really quickly and what you can produce. So this whole thing is called Understanding the Canvas, the impact of AR, XR, and VR on artistic expression and opportunity, very practically for your work and practice. So again, please share links, tell me what's going on. And this is a really free-flowed session. So if you have any questions at all, either drop them in Telegram or drop them in the chat. Or just speak, like just interrupt me. It's absolutely fine. I would much rather you all got something really practical out of this that's really relevant to you right now. So who am I? I'm a producer. I started off as a visual artist and a technologist, and increasingly my work is about production and curation. So at the moment, I am head producer for Decentraland, which is a virtual social world. We blew up in about 2019, 2020 with both COVID and also Facebook rebranding as Meta. It was the kind of metaverse hype cycle. We're still working in terms of understanding what virtual environments can do for global communities. And part of that remit is regular cultural events. So I produce a lot of festivals and cultural installations. I'm founder of Mesh Fair, which is an art fair for 3D metaverse and VR creators. And I'm also assistant professor of emerging technologies at Berkeley Valencia. So I teach on the MA course in global entertainment and music business, kind of doing the same thing as we're talking about here, showing how people within the music industry, people who are creating record labels can use these emerging technologies. So I've been on things like CNN, just to like, there's not many people in this world creating these things. So I've talked on CNN about realities and virtual worlds. My work's been seen in things like Vanity Fair. This is something we produced for Metaverse Fashion Week, Vogue Spain. And I've written quite extensively on using the metaverse as a radical medium for artists. If you're interested, I'm happy to share the links. So this is Mesh Fair, my baby. I work with big galleries and pretty established artists on exhibiting their work within virtual worlds. There we go, blah, blah, blah. So what we're going to do today. We're going to look at the value of extended realities in artistic practice. We're going to say, like, why would we be even considering this as visual artists, as installation artists, as whatever your practice is touching upon. I'm going to go through the links in a second. We're going to look at 5 key learnings that I've kind of come up with from my own practice about how to create an immersive environments. We're going to take a study trip remotely to an immersive mixed realities exhibition. And we're going to create our own virtual environments. So it's going to be, yeah, a kind of ending on a practical session. And hopefully we'll be able to walk around everybody else's environments that you create during this session. It will have to do quickly, but we'll see. So the value, this is, can I have a quick poll in the chat? Who already uses virtual worlds or virtual environments in their work? Anyone? Just give me a yes or a no in the chat. No. Yes. Okay. Like Kinja? Awesome. No, yes, Natasha, yes. If you are using them, drop in the chat which virtual environment or world or what you've used. I'm really interested. So got predominantly no's, no for now. Okay, no's, tell me, are you interested? Either give me an interested or not at all. So, okay, some Spark AR users, awesome. AR, art steps, cool. Okay, so some AR users. Has anyone used total immersion, virtual realities? 3D models, awesome. 3D models, yes, we can talk about that. Absolutely. Cool. Excellent. Okay. So majority no, some AR experience and some 3D modeling experience. Awesome. This is a cool place to start. So we're going to look first then at why we might be interested in this stuff. So the value of virtual worlds. Um, the big question, why does this matter? And obviously, we're talking about emerging technologies here. And one of the biggest in the last 6 months has been Apple with the Vision Pro. And more recently, Facebook with the Ray-Bans, the glasses. If you've been following that, you will know that kind of Facebook Meta has edged ahead in terms of the tech, but the kind of concept is still the same. It's looking at, let me get my mouse back on here. This idea of spatial computing, which Tim Cook basically invented when it launched the Vision Pro headset earlier this year, thinking about how we can take what we use every day, which is the internet, which is 2D environments where we find information, where we connect, where we social network, where we have our online communities, and move those into what Tim Cook calls spatial computing. This 3D world that we're going to be inhabiting within digital technologies. Now, the problem is that this is emerging technology. So all of these terms are pretty confusing right now. This is from the Washington Post, just after Tim Cook announced his big move into spatial computing. And Washington Post headline, Apple Vision Pro is spatial computing. Nobody knows what it means. Nobody agrees a definition. And what Apple calls a spatial computer, some people might call augmented reality, the Metaverse, XR, AR, MR, and some people say that the letters don't stand for anything. We're going to do my definition right now of what this actually is, so we can kind of talk on the same levels. Once we've got the words for it, it becomes pretty easy to start to see where our artistic practice might fit on the spectrum of all these realities. So this is IBM's definition. You'll have these slides, so don't worry about taking notes. But this is how IBM defines XR. So we can call it extended realities in XR. So XR, extended realities. And XR is an absolute spectrum. It runs from what some of you have already used, which is augmented reality. And that's when we put digital content on top of the real world. But that digital content doesn't really do much in the real world itself. So a really good example of AR would be you're looking through your phone and you see a 3D sculpture projected into the visual field of your phone. So it's very cool. It takes your work into different environments. You can put that work in the park or in a school or in a road because you can use your phone to place the work. But that work isn't really interacting with the space that you're placing in the real world. So then we have augmented reality on one side. We then have mixed reality. And a really good example of that on the low scale is Pokemon Go. If anyone's got any kids and played Pokemon Go, that is placing digital objects in the real world but they have some kind of interaction with the real world. That object will only appear in a geographic location in the real world. Or my phone is projecting content which is mapping my environment. So perhaps a video game character only appears on my table as a surface, and it knows where my walls are, and it knows that it can't go through them. It starts to interact with the real world around me. So that's mixed realities. And then on the major side on the right, we've got virtual reality. And these are digital environments that shut out the real world. They don't have any interaction with the real world around us. Once we're in a virtual reality environment, we leave behind the physical environment around us, and we're in this constructed virtual narrative that completely immerses us around us in that practice. Now, some people, myself included, say that virtual worlds in computers right now are actually within virtual reality. We don't need a headset to become fully immersed. We embody our character running around the video game. We completely disconnect with the physical environments around us. And that for me as an artist is very interesting. So we have this broad spectrum between augmented realities, digital content on top of the real world, mixed realities, digital content interfering, interactive with the real world, and then virtual realities, which don't have anything to do with the real world. We leave that life behind and we enter into another realm. Okay. Any questions so far? Cool. Remember, stick them in the chat if you have anything. Remember to share your links as we go through. Why this is also kind of interesting is it is a massive growth market. So it is predicted that the global extended reality market, which includes, as we've just seen, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality, reached 29 billion US dollars in 2022, and it's going to rise to over $100 billion in 2026. It's a big opportunity for us as artists, and it's one that I've made my own career on, starting off as very much a traditional visual artist with a background in tech, gone completely into immersive fields. Now, some people say that extended reality is the platform for content. You'll hear that a lot in kind of technology circles. It's a content platform, just like social media is a platform for content. However, for us that are trying to do something a little bit more interesting, we can see this kind of marketing information from Apple. Yeah, Vision OS. This is about their designing for Apple Vision Pro. It allows people to immerse themselves in your content. Okay, this idea of content. However, where a lot of artists working in virtual environments come from right now is this idea of experience. So this is a chap called Herman Narula. He is the founder of a big company in virtual worlds called Improbable. And he wrote a very good book, which is, on my next slide, Virtual Society by Herman Narula. And one of the key quotes out of the book is this one, which I really agree with. Experiences will be the currency of our virtual society. The only reason why I'm going to immerse myself, where I'm going to leave the real world behind and immerse myself into a virtual world, is because it gives me experiences that I can't have in my daily life. And as a producer for a virtual world, I'm finding more and more that that's the driver of people entering these environments. And so for artists who are used to creating objects, experiences, narratives that move people, my kind of evangelical take on this is that we need artists in these spaces, that we need artists to create experiences that are going to connect, bring people together, and give that memorable, emotive edge to experiences both in the real world and also the virtual. We don't want the virtual being left behind. So I would say that extended reality is actually the platform for society in general. It's about constructing a world in which we have things like self-actualization, new experience, new connection, in a virtual digital realm. And yeah, so this is kind of where we are right now. The lexicon of immersive experience is currently being written in a growing number of virtual worlds. It's incredibly new. As I say, there's only a few people in the world really pushing this, and most of us are at the major virtual world companies. There are a lot of artists that are moving into the space and don't know where to start. And when Magda approached me to talk about this, I was really excited that this was to a group of women, because we need to ensure that diverse perspectives, diverse experiences, and diverse backgrounds are reflected as these worlds are currently being constructed. It's an incredibly exciting Wild West out there, but it's very important that all of us understand how we can contribute to these environments. So, where are we right now? These are kind of the environments that are out there currently. I just want another poll in the chat. Tell me, which of these ones have you already heard of? I don't know if you recognize any of those logos. If you just drop in the chat, has anyone heard of any of these previously in your work? Roblox, yes, awesome. Kinder, do you have children?
Yes, that's main reason why I know Roblox.
Absolutely. How old are your children?
11.
Yeah, you had that direct experience of them creating friendships, playing within these constructed environments.
Exactly.
So we've got Roblox, Sandbox, Fortnite nephews. Yeah, Fortnite. Cool. Fortnite. Yeah, Fortnite and Roblox. Awesome. Oh, cool, Sarah. So you know the crypto side, the Sandbox and Decentraland. Yay. Okay, cool. So excellent. That's a really good, solid start. So yes, if you have children in your life, you've probably heard of Roblox and Fortnite. And they're the big ones right now in terms of engagement of people kind of under 25. There's also these others. So the logo at the beginning there that kind of looks like an infinity sign is on Cyber. Then Roblox, Sandbox. We have their Spatial, Hyper5, Fortnite, Decentraland, and Nifty Island. These are kind of the big ones out there right now trying to work out how this works. Fortnite has obviously been the most successful. They have been huge in terms of what they started as, which was as a platformer, a battle royale shooting game. But from there, they've been then taking themselves into experiential installations and events. So you might know that some big musicians have, for the last 3 years, started experimenting with shows on the platform. Now, why this is interesting to us is that most of the big media and entertainment companies are starting to move into these worlds. So you can see that Disney earlier this year took a 1.5 billion stake in Epic Games to work with the Fortnite maker on new content around Disney. I could have put many more other kind of announcements and slides in there. Lots of Roblox collaborations with people like Walmart, Nicki Minaj, gosh, the big ones. I will give you a list in a second, you'll see. But brands have been moving in since we started. In the hype cycle back in 2019, 2020, a lot of the big brands moved into Decentraland to start experimenting. People like Dolce & Gabbana, the big banks like Santander, everyone started to try and understand how to use these worlds. The problem was that no one had done this before. There was no rule book or playbook about how people interact in these spaces, and also what people get. What is the reason? What is the validation or the experience or the positive outcome of being in these worlds? So I've produced a lot now. I've produced 7 virtual festivals, about 50 to 60 events in virtual environments. I've done things like Metaverse Fashion Week, Metaverse Art Week. I'm currently working on Decentraland Music Festival with some of the big talent agencies around the world. So before we moved into our own construction, I thought, well, let me give you some of the learnings from my practice so far. And then we don't have to invent the wheel. You don't have to believe me on all of these, because a lot of it is trial and error for your own practice and your own artistic expression. But I'm going to give you a few rules of what I found out so far. Again, comments, questions, either just interrupt, just shout out, or message in the chat, and we'll go through. So this is it. What have I learned so far? Okay, low poly. Can you just give me a yes or no in the chat if you understand what low poly means? No, no, Christina, no. Sabina, no. Okay, Tamara, no. Cool. Okay, cool. Massive no's. Right. So poly, you'll hear this if you move into 3D worlds. Poly stands for polygons. Just the geometric shape, a polygon. And that's because when we construct something for 3D, we have to think about it in terms of how many angles are in that shape. Because the more polygons we have, the greater computing power it takes to process and render and create that object. So if you've ever worked for things like AR, you will have specified for you the file size that you can install and also the polygon count, or you might hear tris, which stands for triangles, basically the same thing. So triangles, polygon count, 2 triangles per polygon. So basically a polygon count is double your triangle count. Don't have to remember this, but it's just a way of saying how complicated is your shape. So to create something that looks like reality, I am going to have millions and millions of polygons tracing across the curve of my face. We can call something low polygon, or what we say is low poly, when we start abstracting those curves to take out some of those polygons. So it starts looking kind of blocky. It doesn't look smooth anymore. So low polygon means that the curves start, instead of looking like a smooth curve, start to have angles. Because to get a smooth curve, I've got to have thousands and thousands of polygons all taking that curve so it visually looks smooth. So what I find when I start working with artists is that they say, it doesn't look real. It looks like a computer game. What is that to me? I'm a fine artist. I don't want to put my work into something which looks more basic, computer gamey. Why would I do that? Well, the answer is because if you're interested in connecting with people and having that dialogue in terms of experience, low polygon, even if it looks kind of computer gamey, doesn't necessarily equal low immersion. And why this is, so this is a screenshot from some of Decentraland's, Roblox most popular experiences right now. And you can see that Brookhaven up there has got around, I don't even know how to say that figure, that 44 billion visits so far when I extracted this figure. And Adopt Me, the next one, has around 35 billion. So that's visits. So that is the amount of times that people are coming back to these environments. They're extremely compelling. And yet, that is what Brookhaven looks like. Okay? Like, as an artist, you're like, what? Why? What? How does that attract? How would someone want to stay in that space? And yet we see 44 billion visits. This is incredibly compelling for the people that are in this environment. This is a screenshot taken by some of my students at Berkeley, because obviously the kids and their family took them in to show them what they were doing in Roblox. And we return to that quote. People want fulfillment from their virtual experience first and foremost. If you can give them fulfillment, if you can give them something that they cannot access in their everyday lives, that is extremely compelling as an artistic experience. It doesn't necessarily have to look like reality. So this is an artist I kind of want to do this direct comparison with. This is a virtual world called Mona, which started out as wanting to work with artists on high fidelity, high poly, immersive experiences you could access through the browser. And it didn't work. So this is by an artist called Nathan Robert. You can see, I think, where's my little view count on here? How many people he's got? Me. So in his environment, when I took this screenshot, he had me. That was it. He'd constructed this beautiful, immersive experience. And yet, you'll swap it with Adopt Me. Again, it's got bunnies in, so we can do the direct comparison. Yeah, 35 billion views. So that difference, even if we're not interested in creating things that look like this as artists, it's worth us understanding why they are so compelling. And that kind of brings us to Minecraft, one of the massive breakout games of the last, 8 years, and just how compelling this game is for people that play it. It doesn't look like reality. It doesn't feel like reality. It is the most low poly environment. It literally looks like cubes. And yet it brings us something that's different from our everyday lives. And it brings us enough that we want to go back time and time again to construct these spaces and these experiences. So yeah, this quote, experiences. And that's a hard lesson, especially for us if we've been working in the visual realm for a long time. We can easily dismiss something that doesn't look like our style or our community. But I would really urge you to try and understand what this brings to people so that you can at least take some of this into your own practice. This is a beautiful work by a designer I've worked with some of my festivals called Archimicia. She's a 3D designer. And again, this is what she created in Monoverse. Yeah, I had to kind of work with her quite a lot in terms of her Decentraland work and say, okay, it's not going to look as beautiful, but what is it that we bring to someone by installing this artwork within our environment? And then secondly, for especially, I'm of an older generation. I have 3 kind of teenage boys, and I was never a gamer. Like I wasn't interested in gaming. I was interested in art. And then I saw how boys were interacting with the games, and I realized something very important to my own practice, which is that a game aesthetic doesn't have to equal a game. A virtual world, this is a quote from Nerula, differs from a game in a few ways. Key among them is that a virtual world is a consequential place. In a game, we completely escape from ourselves. We become someone new. We do things in games that we'd never do in real life, and that never comes back to hit us. The police aren't going to knock at our door and say, hey, you just killed that person in Grand Theft Auto. It's a completely different space. Virtual worlds, as we're constructing them, are not. They have direct impact on us as individuals. Now, we could argue that video games have that as well, especially for people growing up in those environments. They become very much part of the cultural narrative. When we're constructing virtual worlds, we want to take that even further. To show you, this is a installation in On Cyber by Artifact, which was one of the big NFT breakout companies about 2 years ago. They were bought by, let me get this right, Adidas, I think. It's either Adidas or Nike. They bought them to then lead their Web3 development of their products. You can see that this is a space that is about NFT distribution. It is about immersion within the Artifact world. Artifacts see this as a consequential place. They want their work to move from these environments into the narrative of the people owning and using these NFTs, the physical objects associating with them. They become part of what we call a transmedia narrative. And I think Damir will talk about this more tomorrow. This transmedia narrative of having something that extends between physical reality, virtual worlds, and back and forth. I want to show you this. I don't know if you'll be able to hear the music, but this is the 2-year ago version of what I produce. You'll see it looks like a video game, but you'll see there's some major artists involved. Let me see if I can play it with you. So this is a music festival within the Decentraland virtual world. You can see there's Ozzy Osbourne. There's Björk. So you see, it very much looks like a computer game. Next week, we're actually releasing the update of the virtual world, which takes it a little bit further into higher poly, better rendering. But it's that sense of creating something that has meaning and interest and community in a virtual world that people want to be part of and has direct impact on their lives. I'm in a really unique position as being a producer within virtual environments, and I have a lot of talks to our people within our community. And for many people within Decentraland and other virtual worlds, they see it as an extension of their reality. So they feel that they can use it as a sandbox to find themselves, to make connections, to make genuine friendships. And we started to kind of create real life versions of it that mean that people that meet in Decentraland are then meeting in real life. They're starting businesses together, they're starting communities. It becomes this interplay between virtual worlds and realities. Whoop, I don't want to play that again. Let me go there. So virtual world is different from a game in that it is a consequential place. The boundary between a virtual world and the real world. Although virtual reality takes us completely away from the physical world in terms of our socio-political, community, self-actualization, realization, experiential reality, it's absolutely based in that space. So an example from Meshfair, I worked with galleries like Office in Part, one of the major digital galleries based out of Berlin, Unit in London, fabulous painting gallery, Glitch in Texas Marfa, people like Arsenal, Fungi Gallery in Paris. These are big names because they see that the virtual world is beginning to have consequence in terms of their own practice as gallerists and curators, and also for the artists that they're working with. So a bit of a thing about Mesh. This was Mesh version 1. I want to show you these two so you can see how quickly this is progressing. So when you start thinking about your own work and designs in here, I'm going to keep an eye on the time so we're not running over. Yeah, so we'll kind of talk for about 10 more minutes and then we'll take a break. So I'm going to show you now Mesh. So as a curator, I started out building virtual environments as an artist and a curator. My first installation that I created was a gallery in Decentraland back in 2020, maybe 2021, and because I was the director of community for an NFT platform. So I was working with lots of different artists, and the NFT platform bought some land in Decentraland, and they said to me, you have to build a gallery. I had no idea what I was doing, and I created a gallery and was incredibly skeptical, really wasn't into the idea at all. And then I saw the people of Decentraland come into the gallery and start interacting with the artworks. And for me, it blew my mind. It was this sense that as an artist and curator, I can install something in a completely geographically neutral space that anybody in the world can enter into, and they can interact with the art in ways that you would never have in any other physical space. So from that, I decided to create an art fair, built this with an amazing designer called Adrian Martinez. We created the environments to try and play on this idea of the gallery as a white cube, but how we could do that in a virtual world. So this was our first attempt at Mesh. I think we worked with 35 different artists on 3D installations within this first art show. We looked at how this would work. You can see it's glitchy. It's kind of like the first prototype, but maybe it will start you thinking about how this maybe could apply to your own practice, your own kind of artistic path. So this is mesh. This is by Linda Lowe. So each cube was filled by a different artist. Rebecca, who's a collage artist. So each cube was given to each artist and they could fill it however they wanted. So they created 3D environments. Some of them have never worked in 3D environments before. So for example, Rebecca, who did the chess installation, that was her, she's a collage artist. She does 2D collages usually. She'd moved into NFTs and this was her first 3D installation. We worked with people that were from design backgrounds, from painting backgrounds. What's been interesting for me is a lot of the artists that I work with the most come from a painterly background because they realize that when they're creating a canvas, they're essentially constructing an environment. And it doesn't take too many steps to then move that painted work into a 3D physical space itself. So that was mesh number 1. Then last year, there we go. I created mesh number 2, working with bigger galleries, and you see it's more advanced. So all of these are different cubes created by different artists. We did gallery tours, we did explorations. And these are the tours that we did live. So we broadcast across all the Decentraland socials, art tours. If you're listening without the music, you might not be getting the full effect, but you'll have this in the PowerPoint. So there we go. That's how mesh has progressed. That's where a lot of these learnings come from. It has been this process of understanding how we bring 2D artists into 3D environments, looking at how we interact with virtual world as an artistic curatorial space. And also because of the potential of virtual worlds, the fact that we have a Decentraland network of 800,000 people on socials, and that we can broadcast live art tours in virtual worlds across that whole social network, just starts to open up art in ways that really haven't been seen before virtual worlds as well. So you can tell I'm very evangelical about what's possible, but it's this sense of the virtual world being a third space for art and what is possible for us as curators and artists. So what's next? Let me see if I can not play this video again and jump to the next slide. Come on. There we go. Oop, it wants to. Ah. Let me see. Right, finish video. I'm going to see if I can escape this slide. Stop it. It's not letting me to escape this one. Let me go back. Escape. Yes, great. So let's start it from here. So Apologies. But no. Yes, right. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to take a 5-minute break and we're going to be coming back after our break. So time for a cup of tea. We're going to come back and talk about something very, very important, which is digital identity. So digital identity is a realm in which we're going to have to abandon all assumptions. And before we do, I would like you to drop in the chat your primary practice. So are you a painter? Are you a performance artist? Are you a theater artist? Are you an illustrator? Are you an embroiderer? Like what is your primary practice? And then we can start relating this to the discussions we're about to have. So I'm going to be catching up on links while I have a quick break and a cup of tea. So drop any links, tell me your primary practice and any links you want to share. And then we're going to be jumping back into it about digital identities in, let's say if we start congregating back in 5 minutes, starting in about 7 to 8, if that works for you. Cool. So tea break and I'll go through your links. Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome back, Sonia, Christina. Hey. If everyone's back, if you turn your video on, yay, Stella. Nice to see you again. Yeah, anyone who's back, if you didn't have your video on before, it is so much nicer to be able to see you. So thank you to everyone that's got video on. Sarah, thank you. Yay. So yeah, thank you for anyone who can put video on. Yay, hi. Hi, Kintia. Antonia, thank you. Hi. Yeah, it's so much nicer to be able to see you. And thank you so much for everyone that sent your links and your practices in the chat as well. Yenana, nice to meet you. Yeah, it's a thrill. So again, any questions as we're going ahead from the next section, please put them on the chat. As a quick resume of where we've come, we're learning about experiences from the world of virtual installations so far, based on my experience producing Meshfair as a curator and a creator, and also from producing various Metaverse festivals over the last 3 years. We've seen that low poly doesn't necessarily equal low emotion. If you're new to this, polygon count, you can catch up on the video. It just basically means how real something looks. It doesn't have to be real to move people, to be immersive. We looked at the figures from the Roblox, and we talked about this idea of fulfillment through experience as being these key points of virtual worlds. We compared some of the environments. We talked about how that was hard for artists to see past that. We talked about game aesthetic, not necessarily making it a game. Meshfair definitely isn't a game, but it does look like one. And people interact with it in ways that are very unexpected, because as a virtual world, we don't have all the kind of norms and social cues that we would for a real world gallery. So when we walk into a real world gallery, we know it's going to be quiet. We know that we can't jump on the artworks. We can't start pole dancing around an installation. In virtual environments, all of that is on the table. So we just don't have the experience yet of how people interact with art in virtual worlds. We have a lot more information from video gaming, and that's what people usually expect. So for us coming into it as non-gamers, it means that we can play with this medium and start to push it in ways that are very unexpected. And one of the reasons why things get unexpected is this idea of digital identity. So when we're in our real lives, we can make assumptions very quickly about the others around us. They might not be true assumptions. We might have to revise them as we get to know someone better. But we can kind of make assumptions about who they are. We can make a general assumption about their age. We can make a general assumption about maybe their social and economic class. Again, we probably shouldn't, but we often do when we look at someone. We make an assumption about the country that maybe they came from. We make an assumption about their life experience. Usually we believe if someone's older, they have more experience that they bring to the table. In virtual worlds, we are forced to abandon all of those assumptions. And this is where we can start getting quite political if we want to bring politics and society within our art pieces. Because in a virtual world, we have no idea of who we're talking to. But we have an idea about how they wish to be seen, how they wish to communicate their identity through things like their avatars, their skins, their wearables, and we'll talk about wearables. Wearables are NFTs, their profile names, another kind of NFT, and also increasingly emotes, which are movements, again, which are NFTs. And people increasingly also, if they're very within the Web3 world, will start expressing their identity even through their wallet address. And you might have talked about this with some of the previous workshops on NFT creation and the fact that your wallet is very public. So as a curator, as an artist, that wallet almost becomes part of your identity and external persona. So if we look at an image from Meshfair version 1, this was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, you can see there, these are the people, these are the art lovers visiting the exhibition. I can see a floating red headed person. I can see a robot. I can see someone who's covered in bubbles. And I can see a robot with her light on her face. I say her. We have no idea at all the ethnicity, the gender, the age, the social economic status of anyone within this environment. And that becomes very, very interesting indeed. Yeah, age, gender, geography, politics, even language. We have no idea where people are from. And to give you an example, so when I was producing Mesh, this is the list of artists that I worked with. So we had Argentina. Let me move, I've got something across my screen so I can't read it. Australia, Brazil, Germany, Hungary, India, Iran, Portugal, Spain, Taiwan, Turkey, Ukraine, United Kingdom, United States. And in Mesh version 2, I had more countries. Decentraland's audience is from 159 different countries. Many of which, and you'll see this if you go deeper into the NFT space, many artists that work in these environments do so because their work cannot be distributed in their own geographic location. I work with artists from Cuba. I work with a lot of Iranian artists that are fantastic digital artists, but cannot share their work within Iran. I'm increasingly working with artists from Israel and from Palestine. And we are having these conversations about how important is it for us to talk about this, the fact that all of these nationalities are within the same virtual environment, having conversations, having to understand the cultural cues and cultural norms between each other to create collective experience and to participate within collective experience. It means that if any of you are from an educational background, I don't know, yeah, drop. If anyone's from an educational background, if you've taught, stick it in the channel. I'd be really interested to know how many of you are educators. I started out, hey, yay, great, Christina, yeah, hands up if you're on the video, if you're an educator. I should have said this before. If you have got video on, just a hands up is awesome. Christina, tell me what kind of educator you are in the chat. It's really these questions that we've had to deal with as educators for a long time. Questions of accessibility, questions of differentiation, become magnified by times 1,000, times 1,000,000 within virtual environments because we have no idea. We do not know if we're talking to a 6-year-old out of Delhi or a 85-year-old out of Greenland. We have no idea the background and the experiences that our audience bring to the table. And as artists, we sometimes forget how monocultural our works have actually been as to this point. Like I seldom exhibit in gallery spaces that aren't the traditional gallery space. Maybe I get some diversity through that door, but when we're talking about virtual worlds, we're talking about the most diverse audience that your work can reach. And so as artists, we have to be thinking about multiple layers of access. It becomes this very interesting conversation about what is it that we're showing. Okay, amazing visual arts teacher, thank you. We have to be very interested in how can people access our work if they're coming to it with perhaps a completely different set of cultural references. It's been a question from the beginning for us. When I first started working in virtual worlds, I founded a collective called Huerta, and we wanted to see how virtual installation could kind of explore ideas of society and identity. And one of the biggest installations we did was this for Metaverse Fashion Week in 2023, which was an installation about the work of Vivienne Westwood. For me, as a British person, she's one of the most well-known designers, fashion designers coming out of the UK. And so if I was designing this kind of installation in the UK, I would assume a lot of knowledge coming towards my audience. And I realized that if I was doing this kind of installation in a metaverse, a virtual world environment, I couldn't assume that anyone had even heard the name Vivienne Westwood before. And so we constructed this space to work at multiple levels. I'll show you a little trailer here. You can see this is the countdown. And what we did is we used visual references as much as we could from Vivienne Westwood's own work. So without taking her IP, without we didn't want to infringe on any copyright, anything that was created by Vivienne herself. We wanted to remix that as artists of taking the visual references and creating something that people could access on different levels. So we created a very, very simple visual iconography with a bit of punk reference. Vivienne Westwood came out of the punk scene in the United Kingdom. And she was very well known by her tartan. Her Anglomania collection in the 1990s was a big breakthrough moment in the cultural narrative of British fashion. It was all about tartan being remixed. So what we did is we created an immersive installation with a tartan that we created using artificial reality. We then mapped it into a 3D space, and we created almost like an internal video game environment where you kind of ran around finding clues, but each of these clues would tell you something about the life of Vivienne Westwood. So if you've been an educator, you think, well, this is a very simple idea. Lots of people have done this before. Treasure hunt, yeah, like a digital treasure hunt, finding information. Doing it in a 3D space kind of made it a collaborative joint thing. And then at the top, we made a response to her activism. So we sort of made her an igloo about her activism and climate change. And we also created an anti-fashion catwalk, because one of the huge things about virtual worlds is this countercultural narrative of digital identity. What a lot of people are finding in virtual worlds is they can take on and explore other identities that they wouldn't within their geographic environments. They're also doing that by designing their own avatars and their own, what we call in Decentraland, wearables. Those are NFTs minted on the Polygon blockchain, which can be bought and sold on the marketplace. But there are 3D objects that people can put on and wear. So some of the most renowned people in our community are people that create wearables and then other people buy them to express themselves, or commission wearables from other artists and designers to be part of their digital identity. And so this was the iconography we made for the Dear Vivienne catwalk. And again, it was very much this sense of being accessible to everybody that could. So simple language, simple experience. The catwalk was open to all. So I stupidly didn't put any video on for you, but I'll send you some links. But anyone could get on the catwalk, anyone could dress their avatar in response to what they'd found out from Vivienne Westwood, and then could interact on that level, no matter whether they knew Vivienne Westwood when they came in, whether they were a fashion specialist, or whether they were just very interested in this kind of happening in a digital space of people getting together, showing their wearables, and at the same time learning about a cultural work, which was the work of Vivienne Westwood. Now, when we're creating an environment like this, it's very tempting as artists to start putting text in there, because we're used to gallery exhibitions. We're used now to artists of walking into a room like this and seeing by each work the blurb. So, it's usually in quite small writing, so we have to get quite close to it. But it tells us the name of the painting, the artist, the date it was created, a little bit about the historical background of the work, what the artist maybe was trying to communicate, or the intentionality of the work. The problem is that when we do that in metaverse or virtual worlds, it becomes incredibly overwhelming. And we also can't assume that anyone coming into that space actually can access the language that we've chosen for that information. So for example, this was by an artist called Mattia Cutini, who's a well-known Italian artist. He works as a printmaker, then moved into NFTs, and then has increasingly moved into 3D spaces. So I've worked with Mattia twice now on Mesh Fair. And this was his installation, which is about paper. So as a printmaker, he was screwing up works and throwing them on the floor. So he did a digital scan of some of this crumpled paper that he'd been working with, and he installed the paper as a immersive 3D space. But you can see that as part of this installation, the impact of walking into the cube is that you're surrounded by this paper, which also moved, and you could kind of walk through it and you could interact with the paper itself. For us to put a blurb by this would have completely changed the narrative between the avatar and the space. And we're also making a lot of assumptions about the people walking into this space. When we did Dear Vivian, I actually created a voiceover. So I talked. So when you walked into the installation, you hear my voice saying, "Welcome to Dear Vivian. This is how you can interact with the space." But again, I'm making the assumption that English is the primary language of all of those walking into my space. We're talking now about using AI to make simultaneous translation. It's something that we want to use for the next festival. But in the meantime, the question was, how do we communicate the intentionality of the artist if that's what the artist wants us to do? This is Mika's installation, Mika Al-Hadaf. If you haven't seen Mika's work, I would really, really recommend it. He is an artist exploring the realities of being identifying as gay, but also looking at how glitch art feeds into that artistic practice. So it's the intersection between his identity and the possibility of glitch. Glitch is technology art using technologies and kind of taking them off a bit. So you're interacting with video and making it glitch. And so this is one of Mika's installations for Mesh Fair, for Mesh version 1. He did another for Mesh version 2. But again, it's a completely immersive space. You walk in like, how do we talk about the intentionality behind this? It's very important to his work, his cultural identity, and the grounding of that in the work. How do we create that interaction with our audience? So what we did in Mesh version 1, we went Star Wars. We had the kind of Star Wars style credits kind of coming above the exhibition, so people could find the artist that they were looking for in the cubes. And we also made the cubes interactive. So if you clicked anywhere on the external side of the cube, it would take you to a website that we built, and it had who the artist is, what their work means, why this is interesting, where they've exhibited, the kind of standard gallery practice. What we found, however, is that no one clicked the link. So we put all this work into creating a way of interacting between the virtual world and the physical world, with, if we're going to call the website the kind of Web 2 world, but no one was clicking them. So instead, for Mesh version 2, we looked at how we could display a little bit of information alongside virtual environments and virtual exhibitions. So this is a render of what we did, and it moved with the avatar. So these cubes are rotating with the artist information on. And then when the avatar came in, I don't know if this is going to happen. Let me see. Yeah, okay. So when the avatar comes in, the cube would angle towards them and they could get the information that we're looking for. So if they only wanted the artist's name, they could stay on that side. If they wanted to read the full blurb, it would go big for them and come down so they could show the information. But when they entered the cube, it was the complete immersive environment. It didn't have text within it. So another learning for you then. No one follows links. It's not like inside of our kind of, when we go down Wikipedia rabbit holes of searching for information, that becomes kind of like a joyous thing to do. You start off pulling those threads and you get more and more information. That doesn't happen in virtual worlds. It happens in 2D websites. Absolutely. We go down those rabbit holes and we want to find the information. In virtual worlds, we want to stay in that virtual world. We want to feel like we are finding out what we need within the world. We do not want to have a 2D website or a reference book by us to give us that information to access it. So again, as artists, if you're going to think about moving into these environments, information flow is a big, big deal. And I think we have a UX designer here, so very advantageous in terms of coming into that with that perspective. This is what happens if we used to follow a link in Decentraland, and you'll see how this is me having a dance. So you see, taking to an external site, it tells you we're going to move to an external site. Do you want to read it? And that was for our own blog with all the information about another festival I did. No one read it. No one was making those leaps. So instead, what we have to think about as artists is interactivity and narrative. How do we get information to our audience that we want? And maybe we don't. Maybe we're happy for people to come across our work and just experience whatever it is that they find from it. But if we are more, if there's something that we want to communicate at the same time, even if it's just a basic about who we are as an artist, or Instagram links, or a follow-up, do they want to sign our guest book? We have to think about that information flow. This is a really nice example from Wellness Week that I produced with some artists. This is an artist called Kanzi. So Kanzi is a 3D artist. He produced this as part of Wellness Week, exploring his love for Zen Japanese art, particularly the 17th century prints. And so he created an immersive work all about that. So you see he's incorporated Japanese verse or Japanese style verse, a raccoon from Osaka's illustrations from the 17th century. Again, if I didn't know anything about Osaka and I didn't know anything about Japanese Zen gardens and Japanese art, I can still access this experience. He made this in a way where it was constructed like a video game, so our gamers really enjoyed it. They found out about Zen gardens and Zen poetry and the art of stopping and having a zazen. So there's like a zazen meditative walk as part of it. And at the top of the video, to claim the prize, to claim the wearable, instead of having to do anything, you had to sit in the game for 5 minutes without doing a thing. So he really brought in elements of what he wanted to communicate through the design itself. It's not a game. It's definitely an artwork, but it brought in game motifs and narratives to increase that accessibility. Oop, I'll get this on. There we go. Okay, and the final point before we start to get practical. So this is the final learning from all of these things of producing artistic and cultural explorations in a virtual world. Everything breaks down. So everything. So we've seen that digital identity is a whole new field of self-expression, but it also means that we have to abandon all assumptions in terms of the people coming into our experiences. But on top of that, we have to completely abandon our definitions of who we are as artists, because in an immersive exhibition or experience, what are our visitors? Are they visitors? Are they participants in the experience that we're creating? Are they collaborators with us? Or are they themselves creators? Are they creating the experience that's happening? I liken this to a lot of the work from the Fluxus group or the things like Cabaret Voltaire with Dada, because it's about a new sense of participation and collaboration that happens within virtual worlds. If you are creating a collective experience, it really isn't about having an audience and a show. It's very much about you bridging those two things and having this sense of a space where all those interactions are creating the experience for everybody else. So this is an installation by Stefan Duc, who is quite a well-renowned visual artist. He blew up during the NFT years. And Stefan created this work. It's a kind of open cube with a big installation with these beautiful ribbons all coming down from it. And within 2 minutes of doing the tour, we had a flash mob pole dance going on around Stefan's work. So people just started interacting with the work in whole new ways that he would never have foreseen before. It would not happen in a real world gallery. This is the work of Rebecca Rose, we mentioned already, the collage artist. And what happened is she created the collage to have the chessboard at the same size of the avatars. So when the avatars entered the space, people naturally started moving in ways to play chess with each other in this immersive exhibition. So again, the fact that the avatars are in there and moving around within this space with an immersive soundscape, we're not even going to have time to talk about soundscapes, but part of this was the immersive soundscape, the words, the poetry people could hear, the visuals, the 3D immersion, and then suddenly this interaction within the sense of self of the avatar and the space. It becomes a projection of one's identity inside an immersive exhibition. And then part of that is seeing everybody else walking and interacting. I was sort of laughing. I'm going to an immersive exhibition tonight at a gallery here in Valencia, which has created a kind of video wall gallery thing with projections. And I know that when I go into that space, everyone is going to be standing around very nicely with their hands in front of them, looking at the projections going, Whereas in a virtual world, because we don't have that norm, our avatars start dancing, they start pole dancing, they start emoting, they start changing their clothes to fit within the installation. So here's everybody starting to play chess within the installation. And this is me riding a Thanksgiving parade that was part of a Metaverse installation in Hyperfy by a group of artists called the Whip Meetup. Again, I'll share the link. They meet every Thursday to explore different virtual worlds and basically create artistic happenings in them. If you are interested in this, it happens every Thursday. It's something just to go and participate and observe. But here you see some of my examples. So these are not part of the art installation. Again, park this sense that it's gamified, park the sense that these are pretty low poly, they don't look very real, but appreciate the way that someone like this has walked into this environment and they've changed the way that they look in response to the environment itself. So this isn't part of the art that was created by the artist of the cube, but this interaction between the avatar and the space creates new work in of itself. As an arts collective as well, so we were really encouraging people to share selfies within the space. And this is what we got, like this whole new layer, this meta layer of artworks being created. You see, this is one of the Decentraland community called Kenji. He's in Japan. So he's in a work by Hannes Hummel, and again, has dressed to perform within the work. Oh, this is Metageist. Metageist is an artist himself, but he's in a work by Meloman, another NFT artist. You might have seen his work. Metageist and Meloman are both pretty well-renowned NFT artists on the scene. But again, this interplay between the wearables, the digital identity of the person within the space, and the space itself. This is Hugh Powell, one of my favorite people that comes to a lot of the art shows I've produced in Decentraland. Again, responding to the work of an artist called Alex Atkinson. Within the way that he looks, you can't differentiate what is Hugh and what is the work by Alex. So that brings us to kind of the learning session. So again, if we're going to go through it, low poly doesn't necessarily equal low immersion. We can have these fulfilling, beautiful, important cultural experiences within environments that do not yet look real. And they may never look real because that's not the point of the environment. Game aesthetic doesn't have to equal game. These are consequential places. People are not playing in the sense that they would be in a traditional video game. They may be playing with identity. They may be playing with self-actualization. They may be playing with finances in the case of Web3 virtual worlds like Decentraland, where those transactions actually have monetary value and you actually have ownership, which we'll have talked about in terms of Web3 in previous lessons. That this is a Web3 space. When you own something, when you own land, when you own a wearable, when you own an emote, that is yours, and those transactions are yours and actually have monetary value. They are NFTs. Digital identities, we've got to abandon everything we know about our audience and start to think about differentiation, accessibility, layers of interaction. Text doesn't always give people information. It can just overload. We have to think very clearly about what information we want to give to our audiences as artists and how we do that. And then this complete breakdown of visitor, participator, collaborator, creator. If we're creating immersive experiences, we're completely blowing apart those definitions. And increasingly, I'm talking to arts editors. When I wrote the article about Metaverse as a radical medium with Alex Esterick, who's a pretty well-renowned arts editor. He works with Frieze magazine, and he is the editor of Right Click Save, which was one of the big important publications for NFTs over the last 3 years. We were having these really in-depth conversations about where is this going? Like, how does this build on previous art movements? Because this is a whole new medium, and all of the narrative and the structure for this medium is being built right now. All right, so here we go. Mesh, 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 mesh. Okay, so that takes us now to our second part of this lesson, which is about when I talked to Magda about putting this presentation together, it was, how do I make it really practical for you? How can you take your work that you already have on the blockchain and move it into virtual reality and virtual environments? This was a question that came to me earlier this year. Again, you're going to meet Damir tomorrow. He was my co-curator on an exhibition. What can do? This is a question that we had to come up with. We created an exhibition called Slash Spatial. So this was when spatial computing was announced, and we created an exhibition for the Tezos NFT platform Object, their curated version of their site, which is called Object One. And we simultaneously created it in a gallery called Tech Contemporary in Copenhagen. And we brought together artists that were working in 3D objects. So you'll hear something called GLB. I'm going to write it in the chat. If you're a 3D, I know we have a 3D designer with us already. So GLB is just like how JPEG is the file format for 2D visual files. So if you're creating a 2D visual file, you're creating it as a PNG or a JPEG. Whereas in the 3D world, there are lots of file formats, but the main one for virtual worlds is a 3D file format called GLB. And so when I'm creating for Mesh, when I'm asking artists to contribute to Mesh Fair, I ask them to contribute a GLB, which is a 3D file. They can create it in different textures, different ways, but it's GLB. And the software that most people use is good old Blender. If you've never used 3D software before and you want to jump in, Blender is free. It's completely open source. It is pretty tricky to start to learn. It does have a bit of a kind of onboarding curve, but once you have experience in Blender, you basically can create for 3D worlds in any way that you want, because you can export it as a GLB and then you can put it in a world. A lot of those worlds are free to work in as well. I'm going to show you one now, which is free. So you can kind of start experimenting. You can start experimenting either with existing NFTs or with JPEGs, or if you already can create as GLB works, as 3D works, you can put in your GLBs as well. So when we started creating this exhibition, we wanted to make something for 3D artists. And that hadn't really done before on Object as a NFT platform. 3D artists obviously exhibit their NFTs through Object, but they'd never been a curated drop of 3D artists before on Object. So this was the project that Damir and I did earlier this year. We worked with both 2D and 3D artists, but all of them had to provide a GLB file. And this you can see a screenshot from Object's platform. All of these are 3D works by different artists like Lauren Moffat. You can see names here coming through from Mesh, people I've worked with multiple times now. Lauren Moffat's actually been shortlisted. She won the VR Art Prize in Berlin 2 years ago and has been consistently shortlisted every year since then. If you want to jump into someone's work who's really at the edge of what's possible in VR, is Lauren. So Lauren Moffat, I'm going to write her name in the channel here. Another artist to look at is, you can see her here, Leah Smithson. Again, a fabulous artist, female artist working with 3D worlds. You can't see her name there, but Aperture One, the bodies here, that's Leah Smithson. And Carla, who wasn't in this exhibition because she didn't have time, she was doing other pieces. But for another person, another great reference for a woman working in virtual worlds and 3D installation is Carla Knopp. So I see like there's many more, but in terms of people that you'll see as I'm talking about this, Lauren, Leah, and Carla are ones to really take a look at. So anyway, so we created this exhibition. And the question was how we presented it, because Object would usually just be happy with us doing a drop on the NFT platform. But as a virtual worlds producer, that wasn't enough for me. I was thinking, right, where am I going to put this? So simultaneously, I created environments in Decentraland, on Cyber, and Hyperfi. Actually, the visual artist Pearl Hyacinth built Hyacinth. I'm going to write her here as well. So their visual artist Pearl Hyacinth built the installation in Hyperfi with, well, she did most of it because she's the Hyperfi specialist. I did on Cyber and Decentraland. Pearl created an installation in Hyperfi with the works that we'd created for this exhibition. So what that meant is that collectors of the NFT could see that 3D file in 3 different virtual worlds, which is incredibly innovative, even for today, to be able to see a work in different worlds, because at the moment that work looks different in different worlds. If you're interested, you can jump into my website and take a look at some more images. I haven't yet posted the videos, so I will have to, but we did this as a mixed realities exhibition in 3 different virtual worlds, and we also did AR. So I used a thing called Sketchfab as our AR platform, and I created QR codes from Sketchfab and had those displayed in the virtual world and also in the gallery in Copenhagen. Now, I'm not going to talk about the AR side of this right now because it's probably the easiest side to do. AR, you can use things like Sketchfab. If you want to connect with a really cool company that does, I'm going to forget their name now. I will come back to this. Artivive. So Artivive is super good for AR as well. If you would like to connect with Artivive, let me know. Because if there's enough of you, we can get a special discount thingy for their platform. They're really cool to support curators like me who work in virtual worlds. So Sketchfab and Artivive are really interesting AR platforms to use, and they're still going. Some of the big AR platforms were shut down recently because of people not really understanding how yet to monetize these tools. So we've got 2 questions coming through. Yes, these are awesome questions. So do I use my real identity in Decentraland? And how do you promote it to people unfamiliar with the metaverse? Okay, so first off, I don't use my real identity for anything. So I use an artist identity for everything apart from the police and my landlord. So I chose to do that when I became quite prominent in technology and digital art, when I started working more and more as an artist. But now I identify more with that name than I do with my legal name. So Backner is my Web3 identity and the identity I teach under at universities and the identity I speak under, but it isn't my legal name. I would suggest, if you are going to go into Web3, to make that decision about how you identify in virtual worlds. I found it very useful to have my artist name as my identity. It means I can appear doxed. So you might have heard this, this term, doxing. I'm going to put it in the chat. So doxed. Doxed means that people know more about your identity than just an avatar. So for example, my face is doxed. I speak at conferences with my own face, whereas for some people in virtual worlds, they would have an avatar speaking for them via a conference screen. One of the wonderful women I work with is a digital creator called Tang Poco. I only know her as Tang Poco. I don't know her real identity. She identifies as her avatar, as Tang Poco. If you see Tang Poco speaking at a conference, it will always be through her avatar. And increasingly, we have community members like that within Decentraland. I'm a little bit different in that I dox myself. I show my face. I have a name which I use across all platforms. So my children call me Bay now, my partners call me Bay, but it was not the name I was born with. It's the name I identify with. And I think a lot of people that have more choose to adopt different identities, usually adopt names that they identify with in those worlds. And I would encourage you, if you are going to experiment with virtual worlds, take on whatever identity you wish to explore. You can always lose that identity and create another one, which again has been a very interesting thing with the internet and the change in digital identity. I used a different name when I was in Web 2, but it wasn't my real name either. So I've had, I think, 3 different professional names that I've used for Web 2 and then increasingly Web 3. If that answers your question.
Thanks. I have a follow-up question. Is like the reason why did you decide to do that?
It's a really good question, mainly because I'm a mother. I wanted my children to have the capacity of moving away from my digital identity if they wanted. That if they wanted to take, I first wanted to be a model for the fact that they do not have to keep with the name that I give them. Like, they can choose their own identities in a completely free way. I wanted to keep them safe. So I work in a lot of virtual worlds, and in a lot of virtual worlds, there's a lot of Wild West kind of happenings right now. It's not always safe. There's a lot of hackers. There's a lot of people that are moving into there that I perhaps don't want to know what my legal identity is. I find that level of security makes me happier as a mother, that I'm quite prominent now. I speak on a lot of conference stages. I talk with a lot of people through the community, and many people in the community are former hackers or still hackers. And as a woman in that space as well, I have been very, very lucky so far that I have never received any negative interaction from the community. But I know in video games, women often are targeted with trolling or things that go further than even trolling itself. So for my safety, I feel that was a really good decision. I made that decision maybe 7 years ago now, and it was a good decision to make. When I was first starting out in my artistic practice around this world, it's like, okay, I'm going to start with a new name, something that it has connection to me. It's from my family. I associate with it, but it's not the legal name that I have when I sign contracts or when I have my passport.
Okay, thanks.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm a mother too, so I'm also asking. It's a great point of view. Thanks.
You're welcome. No, any other questions before we go on? Cool. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. How did we promote it to people unfamiliar with the metaverse? That is an excellent question, and the question that is increasingly important for virtual worlds. Again, it's that layers of access. So people that do not ever want to go into a virtual world, they can see everything they need on cyber. People that are interested, it's like, okay, sorry, not on cyber, Object One. People that are interested first level, the easiest way is on cyber, which is what I'm going to show you now, which is a browser-based virtual world. You don't have to download everything. It's just easy. And it's the one we're going to experiment with. And then if we want to get kind of cooler and more immersive, then Hyperfy gives you more options as a creator to start playing with it, to create something completely different. And then Decentraland gives you the option to do everything, to make wearables, to own the land, to own your own world. So as if you have an Ethereum name, so if you've bought Sonia.eth or Sonia.decentraland.eth from a name server, just like you'd buy the name of a website, in Decentraland, you have an unlimited world you can build on just for free. It's not totally easy to start building on it. You need to learn a little bit, but it gives you much more freedom than the other platforms, which is why I, as a creator, that's the platform I chose to work in. But we will see how we can get started even easier. So this is the gallery that we made in On Cyber. So you can see that it's like a white cubed gallery. The reason is that I was working with some traditional artists, Metageist and I actually made a kind of different gallery that was based on the work of an amazing artist called Michael Beats that does immersive gallery installations. And he created this gallery as an NFT. He put it on Cyber, and we wanted to use that gallery as our art center, which we can because both Metageist and I own this NFT, which is literally a 3D gallery space that we can install whatever we want into. I'm going to drop the names here so you got them. So Metageist, and the guy is called Michael Beats, and the experiences are called Here and Now. After, I will put a big list of URLs together and I'll share them with Magda so you can kind of explore in your own time if you wish. So when Metageist and I first were working on this gallery, because Metageist was exhibiting in this show, we created a much more experimental gallery space using some of the NFTs of Michael Beats. And the feedback I got from my traditional artists was, this looks like a battle arena. This looks like a video game. We don't want our art in this. So instead, I went back to the drawing board and created much more of a traditional gallery in Cyber. You can see it's got white walls. It's got like plinths. It's got a shiny floor. For me, it's a little bit of a shame that we can't yet pull artists into displaying their work into something much more experimental in virtual worlds. But at the moment, it's that access question. It's like, okay, yes, how do we do something that people can relate to and know how to use this space? So this is, I'm sorry, I've got someone at the door. Hola, buenas. Sí, perdóname, un momento. Bien, exacto. Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Bien,
¿Y?
¿Eh?
¿Y? 601
601
972 9E.
Gracias.
Muy bien, gracias. Okay, sorry about that. Right, so creating these immersive spaces. I think, whose question was it that? How do I promote it? From Anna's question, how do we promote it? Well, above and beyond promoting it is, how do we make people understand it? Like how do people understand what they're supposed to do? And a lot of that right now is what Alex Esterick, the editor at Right Click Safe magazine, would call skeuomorphism, that we're just replicating what's in the real world into a digital world. And that seems a bit of a shame, but it's because if we don't do that right now, people don't know what to do in these spaces because they don't have the cultural experiences around them. So as artists, we can kind of push people a little bit out of their comfort zone. But if we make it too experimental, they switch off. They don't want to be in that space. They feel like they're getting things wrong. They don't know how to interact. So when we created Spatial, we sort of made it as much as like a normal gallery as we could, but with this extra AR element. So all of these codes you could scan with your phone, and these actual objects, so you can see there's a work there, the co-op by an artist called Mabasco. When you scanned the code, that work would appear in your living room via your mobile phone at the same time. So you could view it in augmented reality, but you could also walk around it in virtual reality. Now, the codes don't work right now because I've not got what we did is promise the artist that we'd only have them in Sketchfab for the duration of the show and then take them down. So the works have been taken down, but we can still explore the gallery. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on a study trip. So here we are, some other views from the gallery. This is where the gallery is. So I'm going to post it. Let me see if I can post it properly in the chat. If you are on a pretty decent internet connection, it's not going to be too heavy on your system, but I'm going to put it in here. We're going to jump in together into that gallery. So you just need to click the link, and that should open your web browser. And it should show you something like this. So it should you jumping into this virtual realm. So there we go. Right, so let me know if you've joined me. So we've got definitely one person here already. I am going to log in with my wallet so I can show you what an NFT avatar looks like in here. So if you do have a wallet already, let me see, is this going to help? Let me do this. Connect account, please. Where are you? I'm getting covered here. Right, I'm going to use, so you probably already used MetaMask in previous courses. If you do have a MetaMask wallet and you want to log in onto your Web3 identity, you can do this here, or you can log in using Gmail, whatever you want to use. The process is pretty similar at the same time in Decentraland right now. However, on Cyber is super interesting and easy for you to use because it's browser based. It means you can do this. You can click a link and it opens a web address. The problem is the experience that you can have in that kind of environment is pretty limited. We will explore now and I'll show you. If you want to take it deeper, things like Fortnite, you can't access them through a browser. You have to download them like they're a video game. And increasingly, virtual worlds are going towards that. So next week, Decentraland is launching the kind of video game version that you download. So I would urge you to take a look at it after this lecture if you'd like to. But here we are. So I'm going to add my passport and I'm going to log in back. And while I do that, have a look around. Have a look around the gallery. You'll see that these are all 3D works by different artists. Here we are. I'm just going to sign in my wallet. Confirm. And then hopefully, there we go. So let me see if I can put one of, oh, there we go. Ah! So where am I? There we are. So I'm quite small compared to you. This is a new export. So this little avatar here is something that I exported as a file from Decentraland. So this is getting a little bit experimental now. You don't need to know, but you can see my little kind of Venus de Milo avatar here in a robot suit. She is actually my Decentraland avatar, but I exported her, if we want to get technical, in another file format called VRM. Don't need to know this if you don't want to get so technical, but it's called a standardized file that you can take between virtual worlds. So not only can I be my avatar in Decentraland, I can increasingly be that same avatar across different virtual worlds. Or if I want to, let me see if I can go into my wallet. I've not been on Cyber for a long time, so let me see if the UI has changed. So I'm going to go. It's not liking me sharing my screen at the same time as this. It's getting very, very cross with me. So you can see now, this is in my wallet in on Cyber. You can see my avatar there by Backner there exported and then uploaded into the platform. But I also own some weird avatar NFTs here. So let me put this one on instead.
Oh, Bay, just one thing. I think you
Yes.
have the settings to share only the PowerPoint, so maybe try sharing.
Oh no,
again.
so I've just been talking.
I think people were opening the link, so I think they got to experience how it looks like, but just to
Let
share.
me show you. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't believe I've just been chatting away and no one being able to see what I've seen. Right. Can you see it now?
Yes, it's good now. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So you can see now I've got this little avatar, which is actually an NFT. I can change her size. So this is an NFT released by a project called Polygonal Minds. And I actually here have the NFT version of my Decentraland avatar, which I uploaded as a VRM file. There you go. I'll change her size as well. So if you want to start having a look at which avatars you can use, if you click this, which is profile and settings, you can bring up, I see that someone's changed into a monkey, which is awesome. And so you can click profile and settings and then look down the default avatars. But if you own any avatars in your wallet as NFTs, you can also change into them. Or if, like me, you've downloaded your avatar from another metaverse like Decentraland, which allows you to take that avatar and use it into different virtual worlds, then you can do so. So if we get out of avatars for a while, you can see this is my standard Decentraland avatar that I've used for a while. And we can walk around this gallery exhibition just like we're in a real world gallery exhibition. These were the AR codes that I created to be able to have it in your living room as well. But you can see that we've got these interactive works around here by various digital artists all creating things in the GLB file format. And as I say, we created this so that all of these works could be seen in multiple virtual worlds and also within AR, kind of all these kind of cross environmental things. Some of the artists also created video versions of the work. So again, those levels of accessibility. So the work can work as a GLB 3D file, but it can also work as a 2D video file if we want to move around that work in 3D space. And some of the artists got incredibly experimental with the interaction between the avatar and the work. So if we move into this room here, you'll see this spinning installation is by Metageist, and it means that I can stand within it as an avatar, and again have that artwork start to interact with me within that physical, but in the physical space in a virtual realm, which is where we start getting these layers of meta experience kind of layering on the artwork itself. So we can see more works on paper by Mattia. We have works here by Lauren. Again, Lauren's artwork itself was too heavy to install within a virtual world. So we displayed it as a video work here and then as a 3D AR work within the gallery space. And we have all these kind of decisions that we've got to make, like, do we put something called a collider in? So obviously as virtual works, we don't have to have it so we can't walk through them. We're used in the physical world to not being able to walk through an artwork. But obviously in the virtual world, these artworks aren't going to get damaged. If I jump on them, they're not going to get damaged. If I dance around them, they're not going to get damaged. So there's no reason really why I shouldn't be able to walk through this work by Alex Atkinson, just apart from the conventions we bring into a gallery space from the real world. So questions. I'm loving the avatar changes. So we've got a Pepper, hi. There's a doctor. We've got this beautiful installation here by a NFT artist called Untitled XYZ. Now this work is very interesting in itself because when you're installing GLB works as 3D objects, as a curator, you've got to decide what size they are. You'd see with my avatar, I can change how big she is or how small she is. I can do the same thing with these works. So the interaction within the works and between the works really changes in terms of the size of them. I can make them big, I can make them small. I could put all of them within a tiny box in terms of the relation with the size of my avatar, or I could make them encompass my avatar. And when I installed this column in Decentraland as a 3D object there, we made it big. And so we didn't put any colliders in. Colliders are the things that stop you walking into the object. And so the avatars could walk inside it. And that gave even the artist a new perspective on their work. They'd created it as a column, but actually, if we installed it large, it became a space. And the avatars could walk into the space and experience the internal environment of an object. And that's possible for any 3D object that you create. So not only are you thinking about the object, but then when we put it in virtual worlds, we're feeling how is that going to work in terms of the avatars themselves? Do I wish the avatars to enter my work? Do I wish the avatars to climb onto my work? Do I wish my avatar to not be able to go through one wall, but be able to access my work through another? So you have this sense that these works become much more organic, even though they are digital objects that do not exist in the real world space. They suddenly have all these layers of interaction with us, these little things, these avatars on the screen that we identify as a projection of ourselves. Questions in the gallery? See the chats. So, yay, Natasha's a monkey. So Sarah's asking, how difficult is it to create less limited spaces other than a simulation of a gallery? Yes, exactly. What kind of tech skills are necessary? Full stack developers, are there some modular editor sites which enable the creator of space to create without the need for programming skills? Really awesome question. It depends on the virtual world. So as we see, we're going to create something on Cyber in a minute. I'm going to show you how to do it, and we're going to have fun creating something from scratch. On Cyber has lots of different templates. Some of those templates look like traditional gallery spaces, others don't. So as NFT artists, if you just want to take something off the shelf and create a space, that's absolutely very easy to do. If you want to model something yourself, on Cyber has an option for that of minting it as an NFT. Last time I looked, you had to be whitelisted, but I haven't looked in maybe 3 months, and things change really, really quickly in this space. If you want to do anything 3D in Decentraland, then you can do anything. You can do code, you can create AI generated generative environments if you wish, but you do then have to dive into what we call the SDK, which is the software development kit. If you are a 3D modeler and you don't want to do that, you can stay with what we call the editor, which you can start uploading objects into the editor, you can start walking around them, you don't have to use code to do that. Similar with Hyperfy, you can just upload 3D objects, but each world has its own process for that. So what you need to do is start with an easy world. This is why I'm recommending on Cyber, just to start playing and uploading models into it. And then if you get the bug and you think, actually, I want to dive deeper into this, it's then worth exploring some of the other worlds. My recommendation would be Decentraland. Using if you go to decentraland.org, you see there's a creator tab, which you can start exploring. It just takes a little bit, like all different software to learn, it takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of just trial and error, messing around with how that fits within your own artistic practice and skills. Does that answer your question, Sarah? Awesome. But yeah, just message me. Totally. But we're starting with on Cyber because it basically gives you the most you can play with the quickest. Okay, any other questions? Let me check. Oh yeah, people saying we don't need this. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just talking into the void on that one. Okay, so we're gonna have a look at what we do here. So I'm just gonna bring up my slide presentation again and show you what's gonna happen. So we're gonna jump out of the gallery and we're gonna start doing things that are much more interesting, which is creation. So I'm gonna show you, which screen can you see now? Probably not this one. Let me, let me stop sharing this one and go back to, oh, now I've obviously shut it down, silly. Let me see, where is it? No, I don't want you. I want my PowerPoint, which I've very sillily shut down. Go. Right. Long time since I've used PowerPoint, so I can't remember how I can just share a slide from where I want to. Let me do this now. That I think is that. Yes, great. So we've just been dumped into on Schreiber. So what we're going to do first is we're going to share my screen. Ah, there we go. Where is it? There we are. Okay, so we're going to go now to the landing page on Cyber. So it is just oncyber.io. I'm going to put it in the chat as well. If I can find the chat now. So oncyber.io, jump in there. And you will see there is a screen that looks like this. And what you want you to do is hit that button that says start your world. So you're just going to start your world. And then you will get a screen that looks like this. So you can see that if you are a 3D modeler and you want to start doing something more advanced and you want to be putting things together, you can completely build from scratch. So you can choose what your sky looks like, what your floor looks like, how the building goes together. That's all completely open with you. But because we only have, we've missed our break. We're going to break in a few minutes. But because we've only got the next hour and I'm going to be talking you through some things and answering questions, we're going to be building with a template. So I would urge you to click the thing that says build with a template. And then we're going to go and choose whatever you want to do with this template. So for most of you, maybe it will be host showcasing your art, or you can build a hangout space, or you can host meetings. And so the goal of this next session is for us to create a space to communicate something to the rest of the class. So if you wish to not show your art and wish to create a video display and put a video up and show maybe a video piece that you've done or something you want to share as more of a cinema style, absolutely. So you can choose between any sense of space that you want, but the assignment is that we're going to have, after our break, about 30 minutes to create something. And then we're going to have about 15 to 20 minutes together to explore anyone's who wishes to share their link for us all to go visit together in a virtual world. And hopefully that's going to show you how immediate this can be, that we can create something and then invite this small community that we've built here in this conversation into that space and see them interact with it. So that's the kind of the goal for the next bit of class. So once you've done that, if you pressed art, you will get a screen that looks like this, which is like, okay, there's a few templates here. You can see that I started with the X1 gallery for the build I did for the on-cyber gallery for the show. You can view more templates if none of those match you by hitting the link below. Drop in the chat if anyone's struggling with internet and hasn't been able to access this, because we'll kind of pair up if so and see if we can get something working. But hopefully you've already, just oncyber.io, sorry, asking for the link, oncyber.io, the web address. So oncyber.io, have a look, jump into some templates. Don't have to sign in, should be that you can just do it for free. Oh, if you, maybe to have more templates. If so, just stick with the ones that you have. Yeah, that's absolutely fine then, Natasha. Just stick with the free, absolutely just one of it. But if you want to sign in with a Gmail or you want to sign in with a Web3 wallet, OnCyber's super safe site. It's been around for many years now. So yeah, as deep as you want to go. So where are we at? We're going to break in just a couple of minutes for a cup of tea. And then we're going to be back at some building. So today, what we've done so far is we've looked at the value of extended realities in artistic practice. We talked about why this is important, like why we as artists should be interested in extended and virtual realities. We discussed those 5 key learnings about creating immersive environments, all those things like looks like a game, doesn't have to be a game, low poly doesn't have to equal low immersion, digital identities change everything. This break between artist, participant, creator, audience, visitor, all that's starting to merge. We take a little study trip now into OnCyber. We saw that gallery that we created for the Object One NFT show with both the flat video NFTs and also the NFTs that were 3D GLB objects. And now we're going to begin to create a virtual environment for your own practice. So this is going to be the bit where we get practical. So I would urge you, get a cup of tea, think about what kind of things you would like to display in the gallery. For the first 5 minutes, I'm going to give you some tips, showing you some of the things that you can do very quickly to customize a new gallery. I'm going to share that with you. And then you're going to have 20 minutes creation time just to kind of work and see what you want to build. And then we're going to come together and anyone that wishes to share their links can, and we'll jump into your gallery spaces. Any questions before we break for tea? Okay, awesome. So we're going to be coming back in 5 minutes. So about 10 past, 15 minutes, 10 past 6, quarter past 6, we'll be back on the call. I'll be in a gallery already showing you how to put things together. And then I really can't wait to see more about your work through your immersive spaces. Okay, see you in 5 minutes. Hey everyone. Cool. We have got about 40 minutes in total to both construct something to show your work a little to all of us, and also explore a little bit further into On Cyber as our kind of test virtual environment. I think one of the questions that we haven't really answered so far is how this interplays with virtual reality headsets. And for a lot of artists right now that are working in virtual reality, it doesn't. So for most artists working in virtual reality at the moment, they are building their environments in engines such as Unity, and then using those environments as self-contained experiences within galleries. So for example, if we look at the work of Lauren Moffat, her work is built in Unity, and then we enter this self-contained creative space that she has constructed for us, whether that's in VR in a full immersion with a headset, or whether it's in AR, which she increasingly uses with her works through a laptop, a tablet screen, or through a mobile. For those of us that wish to create virtual world spaces right now, the virtual worlds that you can use with a headset are things like VR chat and Meta's Horizons. Unfortunately, they don't give us a huge amount of creative freedom, not what we find in browser and software client versions like Hyperfy, On Cyber, even Roblox, Sandbox, and Decentraland. We can build a lot more in those environments than we can in VR headset environments right now, unless we want to build it ourselves, like some of the most established VR artists. So they are building their environments themselves. Whereas for us, we want to use pre-existing, whether we call them metaverses or virtual worlds, in which we can add something that people can come and wander into. Most of those right now don't work with virtual reality headsets, although it's moving towards it. I think spatial works with a headset. The thing people at Monaverse are doing a lot more with headsets as well, although they've moved towards being more of a marketplace for 3D world assets rather than a virtual world itself. So again, very early days in terms of these environments. We know that all of them will move towards being able to work with virtual reality headsets. You'll see if you're following anything from Decentraland, the next software release that we're releasing next week sets us up to being able to work with VR. Everyone knows that's where it's all going. But these are quite different things right now. Virtual worlds where you can create something that people can come to through a browser or through software are a little bit different than what we're creating with closed headsets. So the thing that you're working on now On Cyber, you cannot yet experience through a headset, but I'm absolutely sure that it's roadmapped towards that by the guys creating the platform. So if we're going to dive in then into On Cyber, I am going to share my screen once again for the browser-based virtual world, which is On Cyber. Let me just bring, so if you haven't yet jumped in, it's oncyber.io. The link is in the chat. So oncyber1word.io, and I'm going to show you what I'm seeing right now. So let's share my screen. Here we are. So here we are, my On Cyber screen. I'm going to start my world. And we're diving in. Wow, I've gone back into my own world. I want a new world. So you probably got a new world if you haven't already been here. I'm going to jump and go towards a new world. So if you've ever created a world before in On Cyber and you need a new one, you just go up to the what do you call it? The header at the top, click on your gallery name, and you'll have the option to create a new world. Probably wasn't an issue for you because you probably didn't want to have one already in there. So I'm going to create a new world, and I'm going to do the same thing as everybody else. I'm going to build with a template. I'm going to showcase some art. And I think I'm going to go for the Wolfgang #2 Dark Gallery. So there's a couple of things I want to show you before I kind of dive into your own creations. Now, when you click on add asset, you'll see that we can move the asset around. So if you're thinking, I don't want all those things on my wall, I just want one or two, doesn't matter. Those things with the plus, with the asset, don't show until you put something in it. So if you just want a massive screen of one work, all you need to do is take one of them and you just need to move it around. Here we go. So you could bring it forward. I can bring it up and down. And I can also change the scale of it. So if we go over to the thing here, the side, I should have a way of changing my scale. Where's my scale? Again, I haven't been in here for a while. Let me see. Adjust world settings, upload. La, 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 la. Where is my change scale? There should be a slider somewhere here. Dun, dun, dun. I will come back to that in a minute when I'm digging around. But the interesting thing for us as NFT artists, if you log in with your wallet, you will get all the NFTs in your wallet in this drop-down list for NFTs. So if you've minted NFTs with the wallet that you're using to build on Cyber, you can just drag and drop your NFTs into your asset. So I'm going to put that one in there. So I've dropped this NFT that I don't know what this NFT is. I think someone's sent it to me on my wallet, and I can move it around and I can add it to the display. And then if I want to see what that looks like in practice, I can go up. I've got so many little things open around here. I can go up and I can see preview. I can click on preview and I can see what my gallery looks like. So in the top right-hand corner, you had a preview tab. And if I click on it, I can jump into my gallery as a visitor, and you see all I can see in my gallery is my NFT that I dropped on my wall. So I don't have to think about deleting anything else. I can just put my NFT in my gallery. So let me get out of preview mode. Here we go. And so this is harder than it looks with the Zoom things opened as well. Let me see if I can get out of preview mode. So I'm going to go back to me. Oh, you can fly as well. I don't know if you've seen this. I can fly around the gallery if I wish to. And I'm going to exit. Let me see if I can exit preview, exit fly mode. I'm going to go back. There we are. I'm just going to log out so I don't have the Zoom screen covering all my controls. You just stop sharing for a minute. There we are. So you can see that the preview actually opens in another window, which was what I wasn't seeing with the Zoom header. So if I go back there again, so you can see there are two windows open, my preview screen and my build screen. So I've got them simultaneously now, which is actually a new feature that they've just released recently on Cyber. It used to be that it would open within the same browser tab. So you can see I can add something here. I can add any NFT, so I can click on another one and I can add something. Or I can upload. So if you don't have any NFTs right now, instead you can click on upload. And these are, you can see things I've previously uploaded, which are the visuals for the show, the On Cyber show. So those visuals were uploaded as JPEGs and then added to my show as onto the columns as different assets. So instead, I'm going to add a 3D asset because I've got some in my wallet here that I already uploaded. So let's put in Leah Smithson's 3D asset. If it is Leah's, I'm not sure Leah's works. Let's put Alex. Ah, there we go. So got Alex's 3D asset here. I can move it around. This is what the GLB file. And I can place it within the gallery. That's what I wanted previously. So you can see there's an edit asset bar that is open now on my screen. And that allows me to edit the size of my asset. I can make it huge, I can make it small. I can add what we were talking about before, which is that collider. So I can add a collider to make sure I can't walk through it, or I could keep the collider off and I can walk into the object. So for example, let me make it huge. I'm going to shut down my old, does that update automatically? Nope. So I can preview it, jump in and see it, that my object is now completely wrong size in terms of being a curator, but in that I haven't put a collider on it. Look, it's huge. There's my massive Alex Atkinson work that I can walk into, and I can now walk into that object. There we are. So now we're seeing inside the artwork, not how it was intended, but we can get all kinds of really interesting experimental things going on in terms of an object we can walk into. So ideally, if you have any 3D assets, you can use them. If not, I might drop you a folder of 3D assets if I've got one handy that you can have a play with. So upload some. You can add your JPEGs if you have JPEGs. You can add NFTs if you have NFTs in your wallet. And then a couple of just final things to show you is, if I come out of Alex's work, and we can just do, if you just click on it and just press the delete, it should take it away for you. Right. So finally, if we go to, we can add directly, which is where it gets really interesting, streams from YouTube. So if you're streaming into YouTube, you can add that stream within your gallery space. So you can do watch parties if you want to do a watch party of something that you're streaming. Like if you wanted to do a poetry recital and have people within a virtual space while that poetry recital was happening, you could do it with a YouTube stream with the stream link added here. But in the meantime, we can just add any YouTube video we want within this virtual environment. It kind of is an interesting thing in terms of copyright and IP and whether we should be able to stream any YouTube video within this virtual environment. But at the moment, it's kind of the Wild West and we can. So we can make that screen show anything we like. So if you went to YouTube and got, for example, if we did a performance piece and we have a video of it, we can put that performance piece on a screen within this environment. We can also add direct links to websites if we wish to. We can add text. It's a little bit buggy. The last time I tried to add text, it takes a while because it bugs out. The easiest way I found of doing it was making a JPEG image of the text that I wanted to design in something like Photoshop or Illustrator, and then uploading that as a JPEG. And then here we can add portals. So a portal is a jump between different worlds. On Cyber is easy because really it's not an interconnected virtual world. I can't just walk out of this gallery and walk into another one. It's not an open world like Decentraland. Decentraland, I can walk through the streets, I can visit different galleries, I can walk around. With On Cyber, these are kind of contained environments we can bring lots of people into, but we can't then walk out and go somewhere else. Instead, we have something called portals, which means you can jump from one gallery into another. So for example, if Sarah put a portal in her gallery to link to Sonia's gallery, we can jump between the two straight away. And that's there. And then we've got different zones we can add in. These are things if you want to have a screen, we can add one in here and say have a screen kind of projecting something here. I'm not sure what a sit zone is. It's a seat. So if you want to do a conference and you want the avatars to look like they're sitting on something, that's how you do that. So if you wanted to put a round kind of fireside chat thing so avatars can come and sit down on it, those are little blocks that force the avatars to look like they're sitting in your gallery space. And then below, if you want to add sound in your gallery and you have a stream URL, so a stream URL is like a radio station online or a streaming site, you would add that there and that would have the music and the soundscape in the gallery that you wanted. So that's kind of like a very quick overview of all the key features within On Cyber to be able to very quickly customize a space. You can also adjust your world settings. So for example, if you want out of the window to look a bit different than what we've got already. So if I want fog in my gallery to kind of ease the edges of everything a little bit. I can make it look a little bit foggy in my gallery. If I put too much on, I can't see anything, but I can make a little bit of fog. There we go. So I can make fog along the floor if I wish. There we go. There's some fog in the air, like it's a kind of, I don't know, tropical gallery. I can put rain in my gallery as well. So I can make it rain if I wish to. There we go. Now it's raining inside my gallery. I can also do things with the terrain, and I can add a reflector to the floor. So like I can put a whole reflector in and make it like a raining, strange environment. We can do edit. We got everything here and then background. So that made it a little bit more like night in my gallery. I can change the color of that night. So let me do that and do a space above. There we are. So now I've got a rainy space place with a reflector floor. Again, you know what it's like as artists. There's a whole palette of tools we could use in here. And as artists, the role of our practice is thinking about what our intentionality is, like how we want to use these spaces, what is fun to experiment with, but then after that experimentation, taking it back to we as artists, what would be useful for us here? Are there tools? Are there the ways of this media working for us? So I would urge you right now to not be self-critical, not kind of allow that inner critic to take over here. It can be as silly and as fun as you wish. It's just a learning experience of seeing what's possible within OnCyber. Or if you wish to go, actually, I've worked in these spaces before, I want to do something a little bit more intentional with the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes, then please do. I'm going to be on the chat and kind of playing here as well. So just message me the chat I'll put up right now. So any questions at all as you're looking at this space, just message. Let me just make sure. Excellent. So Sarah's saying that yes, scale can be uploaded, edited once their work has been uploaded. Thank you. And delete assets. That is a very good question. It was last time I used OnCyber, I could just press delete. Let me see. There we go. Yes. So it's right click. So right click on the asset and it's just delete, and that will take it away for you. There we are. So yeah, click on the asset, right click, and you can duplicate it, replace it, or delete. So just delete is absolutely fine on that one. Let me see any more messages. Awesome. So I'm really excited. So I would really like to see more of your work. If you are now diving into OnCyber and you have any questions, just message. I'm going to leave you working for 10 minutes while I see what I can produce on OnCyber as well. If you do want any 3D assets, I'm going to find a folder from a previous festival that I can drop here so you can add 3D assets. Let me think what I've got. Anything else you need? Any other questions? Just drop in the chat. Is anyone able to add NFTs to this? Because I guess that you've been using NFTs in the last few lessons. Just drop me a yes or a no for anyone who's adding their own NFTs to their gallery. I'd be very, very interested. And again, if anyone really wants to get experimental and not use a gallery template and do the start from scratch and dive in, absolutely, very, very welcome. Again, this is playtime to just push wherever you want to go with this. And the more experimental, the better. And really, if you don't want to share it at the end, there's no obligation. But I would love for us to be able to dive into a few of the worlds that are being created right now. Hey, so I'm going to give you just 5 more minutes. I know it's not very much time, but it'll leave us a little bit time to share links and experience some of the installations that you're making. So 5 more minutes of playtime. If nothing's coming together for you, that's absolutely cool. But if you'd like us to start jumping into your new creative virtual environment, then I would really love to. So 5 minutes play. If you have any questions, just hit me in the chat. I put in one of Masbako's works that we saw in the gallery, Dots, one of his animated GLBs. So if you want to play with installing a GLB, there's a download link in the chat for you to take that and upload it into on Cyber and see what happens. Okay, we're almost out of time here, which has gone so quickly. So if I would love for maybe 3, 4 of us to share links to your creations if you wish. If not, I'm going to open the floor up to questions to bring this together with what you've experienced. So if you are happy for us to jump into your world right now together as a class, to kind of cement this as a community, stick your link for your On Cyber world in your chat. I'll show you very quickly where to find this. Let me share my screen. So once you have your world, I will show you. So let me share the screen very quickly. So I'll show you where the link is. Screen, there we are, right. So if you're ready to share, I'm crossing my fingers that some of you will be able to. You'll see this is a world built from scratch, but it's the same principles. You go to the little kind of cog that says customize world settings. If you click on that, you can see there's a link there. So you just need to click the 2 boxes and that will copy the link, and then you can paste that link into chat. If you wish to call your world something before you do that, on that cog, you can give it a name. So we'll say Bay World. You can enter a description which would appear on Cyber when people are browsing the worlds. You can add default settings here like privacy and access we haven't dived into, but if you want to make your world secret for anyone, to make it private, you can access, you can do things so that you may have covered in other classes, which are things like token gating. So maybe someone has to own one of your NFTs before they can go in your world. Maybe you want to only have a world for collectors that have the special NFT for entering, or maybe you want to have your world that it only opens on a specific date for a certain amount of time as a performance piece, or maybe you want to have just a list of wallet addresses that can only access if they log in, or a password. So all of those options are available for you if you click that cog and see the different options. But for now, if anyone is ready for us to dive into your world, I'm really crossing fingers that we'll have at least a few of you that will click on the link, the cog, just copy and paste that link and just add it into chat. Let me see. Hooray! Oh, this is awesome. I love the links. Right, I think we're going to have to dive into a few. So I'm going to dive just completely randomly right now. This one, there we go. So we're diving into Antonia's world. Antonia, do you want to tell us a little about what we're going to be seeing here?
Yeah, I was just experimenting with layers. It's like a warehouse, a free template in space and in dark waters. And this is just a screenshot of my earlier artwork I did with felt pens like 10 years ago. It's called Miss Kitty. And yeah, that's about it.
It looks fantastic, reflected on the water as well.
Yeah, it's reflecting.
It looks amazing with the reflections.
Thanks.
That's super cool. And I love that people are diving in with us as well. Okay, I'm going to choose another. Let me see. Oh no, Tamara lost her world. I'm sorry, Tamara. It's probably been there somewhere. If you click on the top header and look at the drop down, there's probably something there that you can retrieve it. We jump into Stella's space. Just going to close this one down. Oh no, Stella, I'm not sure we've got the right.
I don't know what I'm
link.
doing wrong. Yeah.
Did you click on the 2 boxes for the link? So if you go into your world again,
Sure.
and
Yeah,
then
I go to settings.
settings,
And, your link. This
click,
is my link.
yeah, click those 2 boxes and then drop again, and we'll see if it's going to work. Unless your space is private, maybe.
No, it's not. Privacy and access is it's not clicked, so it's public.
It's just being glitchy
I don't
for
know.
you.
I'm
So
just getting 404 page not found.
okay, that's really strange.
I'll try.
Well,
I'll try more.
okay, awesome. Let me see. Can see. Jumping into Kincha's world. Kincha, do you want to say a little bit about what we're going to see?
Well, videos, yes, electrical cable inside, sort of.
Like inside an electrical cable.
Yeah,
This is looking fabulous. Oh my goodness. And these are all your video works.
yes, I didn't have anything 3D, but only videos, and also on YouTube mainly because most of them are too big. So yeah, I used YouTube.
It's looking fabulous. Have you ever displayed your work inside a virtual environment before?
Never. Usually only 3D world, like real flesh. But yeah, I thought there might be something I want to try.
Yeah, it's looking amazing. And such a different feel. And so
Uh,
these video works from inside electrical cables.
Actually, they are like zoom ins of light sources, and I just add the narrative of potential electrical cable landscapes. Um, yeah, and now I'm adding the narrative in addition to that, that it's not only electrical cable that I have made in a shape of circle, it could be also the inverse version of a black hole.
Mm.
So yeah, I thought about the modeling of black holes and surviving in them. What would you do if you would fall in? What would happen? And then I was thinking about inverse versions, but then to experience that truly, like as much as possible, I don't want to try myself into black hole like in
No.
Space Odyssey, you know. but yeah, I thought, okay, I may want to try in virtual reality, some kind of simulations or yeah.
How magnificent.
Yeah,
I love the fact that we can walk into it here as well, just as our
yeah,
avatars.
yeah, yeah.
It's super cool. I'm taking screenshots. I hope you don't mind.
No.
It's super, super cool.
And Bei, do you know what is like a mobile experience for this? Can you open it on a mobile or not?
I think you can with on Cyber. Decentraland, no. I haven't tried on Cyber in a while because my work's been, I don't know what I'm doing here, predominantly in Decentraland. Yeah, it's very strange. You'll see, like when I created the gallery on Cyber just a few months ago, the controls were pretty different. So one of the things about using these platforms is just being very open to the fact that things change a lot. Like the standards aren't there. The way they update the software can change overnight. So we laugh that a lot of people that are work in virtual worlds get very calm and zen because we know that things just break, things change all the time, and one of the joys of working in these environments is knowing that it almost takes perfectionism out of it, because if you try and get something exactly perfect, it can be such a struggle. Whereas rolling with what the software is doing, just kind of being open to these happy accidents, which we're kind of used to in practical medium and physical media, but knowing that in a more digital media is usually quite hard for us because we're used to having so much control. But virtual worlds kind of takes that control away again, and we just have to be much more experimental. I'm gonna, if we got any more links, I want to jump. So we looked at Antonia's. Stella, did you get yours working? And we've got Natasha's. Hopefully we've got time to quickly jump into Natasha's. Natasha, do you want to tell us what we're seeing here?
Hello.
Hi, Natasha.
Hello. I was preparing to make like a traditional exhibition. But later I will give some effects and so on. I was too lazy.
Are these your works?
Yes,
They're beautiful.
and I have also. I would like to put some clouds inside to be like heaven on earth, you know. But I didn't have time.
To bring that diffusion that you guys are these physical works? Are these from
Physical works, but I also made videos about these drops and so on. I have a lot of stuffs working on points like impressionism, and video is also for immersive art is very good. I'm without voice. I'm sorry.
No, it's beautiful. I wish we had more time to explore more of these galleries.
I made these works also for meditation, you know, to be mindfulness. How do you say mindfulness galleries? Huh?
Yeah, yeah, it really works. And I think that's something I really like to communicate, just how different these spaces feel because of the works that you as artists put
Mhm.
into them.
Maybe more reflections on the floor, like to be in heaven with music, Zen, and so on. Interactive, all the multisensories. How do you say multisensories? Yes.
Absolutely. Now I'm sorry, we're running out of time. This has been
Okay.
such a lovely way of seeing your works. I didn't know how this would work. I didn't know how many links we'd have, and I'm so impressed with all of these spaces. So if you have time to go through the other links before you log off, I wonder if Magda, if we can share the links in some way beyond the chat, that would be amazing. Just to wrap this up then in terms of what we have had this whistle stop tour today. Let me quickly return back here. So we've gone through today in our 3 hours together. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you this afternoon. We've explored the value of extended realities in artistic practice. We've looked at those 5 learnings for creating in immersive environments. We did that study trip into the Slash Spatial exhibition and walked around and on Cyber Gallery together. And then you've begun your own virtual environments for your own practice. And just that kind of heart-stopping moment of walking into these spaces that are showing your practice and how different those spaces have all been. It's been an absolute pleasure. I am very, if you want to get in touch, my website, backner.com, the Meshfair site, meshfair.com. I am, if I don't reply very quickly, my apologies, we're going through, it's our software launch next week, and I am just wrapping up the Decentraland Music Festival, which is opening on the 25th of November. It's going to be a huge festival. We've got some really exciting headliners from the world of electronic dance music that will be in Billboard magazine next week. So I've just been pinged that I need to do the interview for them. So I have absolutely loved these 3 hours. Thank you so much, Magda and Zara, for the opportunity to be part of this incredibly worthwhile project. Please do email me here. The files will be shared. Is there anything I've forgotten, Zara, Magda, before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's it. You're amazing. Thank you so much. This was such a wonderful thing to see and to hear. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can leave them for Bay at our Telegram group. Just add her so she gets the message, so she doesn't have to scroll through all the messages. And yeah, thank you so much once again, Bay. This was amazing.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming and bearing with me. We'll see you again soon, and do keep in touch. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're gonna have a little break, maybe 5 minutes, and then you can join us for Vanya's presentation about cultivating togetherness in the arts world. So yeah, just 5 minutes to grab a drink and be back.